Hello, my name is Yoshika,
I'm Kevin.
and my presenting problem is I'm coming into Kevin to talk about my family conflict with my father and how that's been affecting me and impacting my relationship with him.
And we'll be using a narrative therapy approach. Um, I'm a social work student. Don't know if I need to say that. So we'll get started. This is our kind of like our second to third session. So we've already done an assessment. So we're just going to be using the modality now. So we'll get started. So Yoshika, you came in the last week and we kind of discussed what the problem was. So do you want to kind of jump back in where we left off?
Yeah, so I want to say maybe 2 weeks ago, I went to dinner at my dad's house, and it was family getting together, and I recently found out that I'm pregnant, and so that's kind of been the topic of conversation in the family. I had my fiance came with me, but he left, and we're talking, sitting around the table, and my dad said something that really affected me, and I was like, oh wow, and yeah.
So what did he say?
He said, I thought you would be more stable when you decided to have a child.
And how did that make you feel?
I was frustrated. I literally said to him, probably passive aggressively, wow, sorry to disappoint you once again.
So you feel like that disappointment has been a theme over your relationship with your dad throughout the history?
I feel like for all of his children, that's been a common theme. Even though he wanted me to graduate high school, or he wanted me to participate in activities in high school, did that. Graduated high school, did that. He wanted me, like all these things that he says he wants for his children to be successful, and I've done all those things. So, but yet he still never seems satisfied.
So you feel like you've met all these expectations that he's kind of laid forth, but still there's this disappointment.
Yes.
Okay, so when would you say that this disappointment kind of appeared in your life in regards to your dad?
Okay, so I would say maybe jumping all the way back from childhood, when I was conceived, because he was married to my stepmom at the time, and so I was, a child born outside of the marriage, and so he did deny me. But when we did decide or did form a relationship as I got older, I would say I didn't feel that disappointment until I was maybe an adolescent.
Okay. When was the first time in adolescence?
I would say I can't think of a specific event, but I know that it would probably be around, some social thing. Like probably he wanted me to do something, but I wanted to do something with my friends, kind of thing, because that was always a fear for him. Is you're gonna get older and leave me.
Oh, so he was kind of afraid of you not being with him. Okay. So there were times when you felt something other than disappointment. So can you tell me about those times?
I would say, when we decided or when he came more so into my life and we developed a relationship, because he's always been around. But when we developed a relationship, we went places together. We went to basketball games like UGA and Cedar Shoals basketball games, and so he seemed very pleased to have me in his company and very happy. So yeah, those were definitely pleasant times with him.
Okay, so it hasn't always been just this disappointment that has kind of come in. There's been some good times where he's been supportive.
Yes.
So, can you tell me more about your family as you were growing up and kind of what that looked like for you?
So my family growing up, I was raised by my mom and stepdad.
Mhm.
I was a daddy's girl, so I spent a lot of time with my stepdad.
Okay.
My mom was kind of the breadwinner, even though they both worked. But for some reason, my stepdad, he just seemed like the one that did the cooking, did the
Mhm.
teacher-parent conferences, and when I got sick, he went with me to the hospital. So we were like thick and thieves.
Mhm.
So my mom has 3 older children, and 2 of the older children are my biological dad's children.
Okay.
And so he was always around, and he would do things with them. It never affected me then because I had my stepdad.
Right.
So it was like, whatever.
Mhm.
I didn't really process it.
Right.
I don't think I processed the feelings that I had with him not being in my life until my mom died.
Okay. And what was? I'm sorry.
She died in 2013,
Okay.
and my stepdad died too. So I think
Oh, wow.
losing both of them kind of was like, okay, so this is the parent I have left. So
Okay. So you were close to your stepdad, and he was kind of like that father figure. You were also close to your mom, and you felt that support from them, maybe that you didn't always feel from your dad,
yes,
your biological dad.
absolutely.
Okay. So just going back to the incident, this recent incident where you kind of felt like you were reliving or re-experiencing this disappointment with your dad. You said it was about your pregnancy. So can you tell me a little more about what led up to that and what was happening and just overall over the pregnancy?
So like the situation between him and I. We were sitting around a table. Him, me, and I can't remember if I don't think my brothers were there. I think my stepmom was doing something in the background. And I think maybe someone referenced the pregnancy.
Okay.
And he said, well, I just thought you would be more stable when you decided to have a child. And I said, what did I say? I said, well, sometimes things don't always go according to plan. And he said, well, people have choices. And I said, well, sorry to disappoint you once again. And then he said, I'm not disappointed, I'm just saying, and he kind of like got offended by me saying that.
Right. So I guess I'm wondering, it seems like you had this supportive environment when your stepdad and your mom were alive. And now with this situation, you're not receiving that same support. So I'm wondering kind of what that feels like for you.
It feels overwhelming at times, overwhelmingly like I'm alone and I'm in this for myself and I have to like figure it out myself. So definitely a sense of not really belonging.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. I would say my fiance is great support, but I think instinctually that automatic reaction is to look to your parents for certain guidance and things.
And you feel like you're not getting that? Does it feel almost like it seems like you're kind of asking for that maybe? And then it's kind of you're being neglected or it's being rejected?
Absolutely. And I've thought about this over the years is that after my mom died, I felt rejected by him when I was younger, like not consciously processing it, but there was rejection in a sense of him denying me. And then, so I think a part of me still carries that. And so when he says certain things, it's kind of like going back to, oh, well, you're rejecting me again. I've done something that you don't approve of, or I'm not lovable, or, I'm not perfect enough for you, so you're rejecting me.
So it seems like that's kind of been an impactful or powerful part of your story growing up, and maybe it's still showing up. So maybe this rejection kind of came into your life when you were a child, and it kind of showed up in different ways, maybe like disappointment, not feeling like you were meeting certain expectations, even though you were trying to do, and it seemed like you were doing everything that your biological dad expected, but still you were just being pushed away.
Right. Absolutely.
So I'm wondering maybe if there were any exceptions to that when you felt like you were accepted by your biological dad.
I think the times I've felt the most acceptance is when either it was just him and I, like we would sometimes go to lunch together, or even times where he would just come over to the house where my mom was living and it was just the three of us and we would talk. When I did great things like got a scholarship or graduated, in those situations, he's so proud and he's like, oh, all the things that are positive about me, he wants to claim as him being responsible for. Like I got it from him.
Right.
So there have been times where I haven't felt that rejection. But lately I feel like that's coming up more.
So I guess looking at everything in totality, I know this is difficult for you right now, and I'm wondering also, it sounds like your dad has had maybe pockets of experiences where you felt something other than rejection. So I'm wondering maybe what your experience was like with your stepdad and your mom in that regards.
As far as rejection?
As far as feeling accepted or acceptance.
With them, it was always unconditional. Like, I never felt like I was disappointing them, ever. And so I was spoiled in a sense. And I think I took that for granted of like that level of unconditional positive regard that someone could have for their child. And my stepdad always carried my picture around and things like that. My mom, she never said like outright, but it was just the autonomy she allowed me to have, like that trust and being able to be open with her. Those kind of things let me know that that she was accepting of me. My friends and everyone I ever brought around, she became like a mother figure for. So even though she never said certain things, it was still communicated by her actions.
So I guess it sounds like there's a very contrasting story between your experiences with your mom and your stepdad and your experiences with your biological dad. Just to kind of go back a little bit, those times when you were feeling acceptance from your dad, can you kind of tell me about one of those experiences and what that felt like for you? Can you remember one?
I can remember when I was in high school and I won a $1,000 scholarship, and they had a banquet for everyone. I asked him to come, and so that night, like he was just so proud the whole night, and we even have this picture where we like look identical. Our smiles are just like beaming, and so that one definitely stands out to me. That was when I was in high school. So
what was that like, the feeling? Did you feel like it was, I know you mentioned with your mom and stepdad, or your mom especially, you felt like it was unconditional, like you didn't have to earn it?
I would say I guess it was, I wouldn't say it was unconditional. I would say more validating, I guess. Kind of like, oh, you've accomplished this great thing, and I see that you accomplished this great thing. So it was a validating experience, and yeah. So I guess that goes back to the rejection thing.
Yeah, it sounds like your relationship with your biological dad has almost always been about, let me try to earn that acceptance or that love or that nurturance, and it's still kind of feeling that way. Can you envision that being different?
I can, but I think that he has some things that he has to work through. I mean, he's had a lot of medical issues happen, and he's very health conscious, and so I think it's kind of frustrating for him and kind of depressing that he can't control these physical things, even though he's doing these great positive things to kind of counteract them. It's not helping. So I think he's upset, and so he's kind of like everything that is around him is kind of stuck into some kind of negativity, and he can't really see like positive things.
Oh wow, that sounds difficult for him. You talked a little bit about your experience with him, so I'm wondering kind of maybe what some of his story may be.
So like my dad and his siblings do not talk about their upbringing at all. He's kind of told me more than my siblings, and so me and my brother Reggie have kind of like been trying to piece together, their childhood. And I do know his mom died when he was 8 during childbirth. He was the youngest, and the child died as well. And his dad was kind of like raised in alcoholic. He's very abusive. He did jail time. So the story that I got is he left, him and his brothers and sisters. And so his older sister, who is maybe, I want to say, maybe 15 years older than him, took care of him. But I found out recently that his dad supposedly raped her. And so I think that's another reason why they don't talk about him, is because she's the matriarch of the family, and they really love her and respect her. She's an amazing woman. And so I think they don't just have anything to do with anything about his dad.
So it sounds like maybe he had kind of a troublesome past with his own father. Maybe even some rejection kind of taking part and even controlling his experiences. So I guess just looking at your story and your experience with your dad, and kind of how this rejection seems to have invaded your storyline or your narrative, and it seems like maybe he was experiencing some of the same things. So just looking at that, it looks like this rejection has been
Generational.
living with you all for a long time.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if you have any hope of seeing this rejection kind of move out or leave.
I think I do, because I mean, my dad he's a loving person, and nothing makes him happier than being around his children. It can be difficult sometimes, but I think that, he would want to be a part of this child's life, and so, I think that he would do anything to be a part of that. I think I would have to definitely be more upfront about how I'm feeling, and maybe even see if he's willing to go there and get, you know, raw and emotional.
Right.
Because I do know for a fact that he will talk to me about things that he won't talk to my other siblings about. So maybe if I let down a wall, he will be more open to, you know, exploring his own, you know, walls that he's put up.
Yeah, maybe.
So, yeah.
And you mentioned that you know he loves you and your siblings. So even though it sounds like this idea of rejection or disappointment has been kind of a salient piece of your journey with him, it sounds like there are some other components as well that have been kind of residing with those more negative aspects.
Okay.
That was 20. Okay.
Oh.
Right.